Dr. Debbie Geigish, and welcome to my show, Get Real with Revenue Marketing. Twice a week, what I like to do is I like to just hit the pause button, sit back, take a few deep breaths, and spend some time listening to people that I find inspirational, who I find motivational, and who kind of get me re-energized about the practice of marketing. So every guest I have on my show, that is their job, is to invigorate you and to help you think differently and think better about all things revenue marketing. And if you know me at all, you know that I am deeply passionate about the topic of revenue marketing. And my current working definition is revenue marketing is just the practice of transforming marketing from a cost center to a repeatable, predictable, and scalable revenue center, using digital transformation as the enabler and using customer centricity as the accelerant. So today's guest is somebody that I call, let me see what I wrote about Jim, because I wrote this down. I thought it was really cool. I said, Jim is an executive. He's a serial revenue marketer. He's a turnaround guru, and he is someone who has applied revenue marketing principles, not just as the head of marketing, but as a CRO, a CEO, a COO, and just about every other C that you could think about. So, Jim, welcome to the show.
Debbie, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to be here, and so great to be on the show.
Well, it's just so great to have you, Jim. How long have you and I known each other?
Well, I'll tell you, that was that's one of the things that I think you changed my career, and when you and I go all the way back to 2006.
Wow.
And I have to tell you, I'm going to tell a story before the story, but when I met you, it was a life-changing, pivotal moment. And this happens in everyone's career where you remember that distinct moment when everything changed. And I remember in junior high, I went to the eye doctor for the very first time ever. And they said, you need glasses. And they put down the prescription, and a week later you went and picked these glasses up. And my whole life, all I thought of was these big trees were just big green blobs. And I remember going outside the optometrist's office, and I pulled them out of a little case, and I put the glasses on, and all of a sudden there was like leaves on the trees for the first time in my life. And I had no idea, because you think everybody sees the way you see.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward to 2006, we had a mutual board member that sat on my board. I was the CEO of Cohesia at the time, and you were down in Atlanta, down at Knowledge.
That's right.
And we were struggling with all these sales issues. I had just taken over the company from the other CEO, and one of our board members said, you need to go down to Atlanta and you need to meet Debbie Geigish. And I was like, okay, well, what am I going to talk to her about? He goes, just go talk to her about the marketing, see what she's doing. And I'll never forget, I walked in there 2006, we sat down in your boardroom, and you started showing me all the stuff you were doing and with Eloqua. And I was like, I had a BlackBerry. I'll never forget, I had my BlackBerry in my hand, and you said, watch this, go click on this in my webpage, go do this, go answer this email. All of a sudden I'm getting all these alerts, you're showing it up on the screen. You had my whole digital body language up on the screen on your side of the house. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is all these years as a salesperson. I was bowling with a big screen over the pins. I could hear things knocking down, but I didn't know what it was. You removed it, and I could suddenly see what was happening on the other side with this new marketing engine. I'll never forget it. That inflection point changed my whole career and what I thought about marketing. Prior to that, when I thought about marketing, I always thought about marketing was the arts and crafts people, right? They're trying to figure out what color orange should the Tide box be.
Yeah.
And who needs those guys, right? We're just going to hand-to-hand combat it. And it was the one event that changed my whole appreciation for marketing, and it changed my career trajectory because of that.
Wow. That always makes me feel so proud when I hear you tell that story, Jim. And I remember vividly you coming down, and I think you actually brought your director of marketing at the time. And if I remember correctly, she couldn't get a word in edgewise because you were doing all the talking, and I think you were more excited about what you were seeing than she was. So, 2006, that's a long time to be involved in, this notion of revenue marketing. And I don't think I was even calling it in revenue marketing in 2006. I don't think I started that until around 2010. But I do know, because Jim, you and I have been friends, and you've been a client a time or two, through the years. And I do know that you constantly applied revenue marketing principles. So tell us about your journey once you got that introduction, and what did it mean to be able to apply revenue marketing principles to these multiple organizations that you've worked in?
One of the things that it did for me is it really allowed me to think differently. I always say Napoleon was a phenomenal general, right? But if you look at Napoleon's battle plans, not one of them has him dropping troops behind enemy lines with a helicopter, right? Because he didn't know about helicopters. And once you started to learn about revenue marketing, it changes the way you think. It changes the way that you attack problems. And you use revenue marketing principles to help turn companies around. When I've walked into so many situations where, I'm replacing a CEO or I'm replacing a CRO that didn't get things done, and the company's in a tight spot. And so the first thing I try to do with that is I'll go in and triage the organization. And
hey, Jim, and if we could just back up just for everybody, tell the folks a little bit about your background and because they don't really understand that. Tell them a little bit about your background and what you've been doing for the last 10 years.
Yeah. So by serendipity, we did a big turnaround on a company and got the revenue up, and we got a really nice exit for the shareholders. And that led, I thought that was just per chance. And then the venture folks said, hey, we have another company over here. And so I went over and we did the same thing. We grew the revenue up and made the company so attractive that a larger player bought it out. And one thing led to a next. And next thing you know, I've done 7 of these, grow the company, make it so interesting that we get bought by a large competitor. And, and they take all the employees and what we have, and they bought it. I think one of the times when you and I had dinner in New York, we were in New York City, and I came and saw you speak, and then you came over to M5 Networks.
That's right.
And M5 Networks, in just 2 years, what we did is we grew the company from 23 million, losing 4, to 50 million, and got $160 million exit out of the company in just 2 years using the revenue marketing principles. And that was one of the ones where I had put in a Marketo system at an earlier company that I exited, and I tried to do it myself to save money. And one of the things I learned on that is good things aren't cheap and cheap things aren't good. You get what you pay for. The second time I put a Marketo system in, I called you and your folks, and they came in and they popped that thing in 30 days. We were up and running, doing campaigns. We did that at M5, and that led to this explosive revenue that got this giant exit. And so applying those principles, for me, once I kind of got into that mode, I started to repeat that process at every company. I came in, I triaged.
And Jim, what were the various roles that you played in these 7 different companies?
So at Cohesia, I was the CEO, and we got an exit. At Powerway, I was the COO. At M5, I was the CRO. and took over both sales and marketing.
Mhm.
At Bill Trust, I was the CRO. At let's see, from there, I went to Vox. I was the
Mhm.
CRO, and then oh gosh, I'm losing my brain. Oh, I was the CEO at Peachworks, which we got
Right.
a really nice exit on Peachworks, all because of the revenue marketing aspect of it. The company had been one of the best kept secrets out there, and we didn't have any really good metrics. And it was through the marketing intervention that we did that it really changed the trajectory of the company. We went from selling 3 deals a month to 40 deals a month because of the marketing piece. And
That's
we put
incredible.
in we put in the all the little traps and high value content all through the website. And this is one you're going to love. Because we did the revenue marketing, we were closing 70% of our inbound traffic. So we were in the restaurant space. So if you think about it, you couldn't hire a crew big enough to call all the restaurants across the nation and try to find out where a deal is. So we put all our efforts into the marketing. Marketing was literally funneling the leads to us, and we were closing 60% of those inbound leads. That was all due to marketing. The old way of trying to knock on doors with just a sales
Yeah.
team, it failed miserably. That's
Yeah.
why we had to change it.
Yeah. So the history is turnaround specialist. You come in at various executive level positions, everything from CEO to COO to CRO. Sometimes you have marketing in your patch, of course. And so by applying these revenue marketing principles, it has been a factor in your success. So let's talk a little bit more about that, because I think a lot of people, when they think about revenue marketing, I think it's very much like the analogy that you said. Napoleon was a great general, but he never envisioned using helicopters to drop. He didn't know what he didn't know. And so often, I think executives don't know what they don't know. So can you talk a little bit around, when you've worked with other executives in some of these companies, what did they think about revenue marketing? How did you share with them, why revenue marketing is important?
So on the companies where I had execs that didn't understand marketing, what I would do is in the triage process, I would go around the company and I'd ask everybody, what does the company do? And one of the first telltales that marketing's not working right, and sales isn't embracing marketing, is that I ask 30 people, what do we do? And I get 30 answers, and none of them match. And so it means we don't have a cohesive story, and we're not leveraging marketing. We don't have, we're not doing problem out marketing where we know what we solve, and the customer can bond on that. And we don't have, we're not using the systems correctly, right? We're just doing hand-to-hand combat with salespeople. And in today's marketplace, that no longer works,
Right.
Especially with COVID. If you think about how much times have, if you think about how much times have changed, right? COVID has been a massive game changer, because your sales reps can't even call into the company anymore because people are working remote off their cell phones, right?
That's right.
And unless somebody has a guide of who's who on cell phones, I don't have that. But
so do you
marketing.
think COVID has exacerbated the need or highlighted the need for revenue marketing principles in companies because of?
Absolutely. I know, I have a lot of sales reps that have been with me over different times. Sometimes, they're working at different companies, but I've gotten a lot of calls from salespeople who have really been caught in the crossfire of this COVID, where smaller companies had to hunker down. Sales is typically expensive if you're not selling. And so you can't maintain paying a lot of salespeople. And a lot of people got laid off during COVID because they couldn't connect or they couldn't get the deals closed. And so if that's happening, then the challenge is you get comes down from, from on high with the stone tablets that says do more with less. The problem with do more with less is that creates a gap. And the minute there's a gap of do more with less, you got to fill that gap with something, and it better be technology. And the only way that you get technology that does this, you got to go to marketing. And, you know, I mean, I think back to our journey all the way back in 2006, there were two choices. You could go with Eloqua or Marketo, or Marketo.
Oh, no. Marketo was not there yet. I don't think Marketo was 2000. That wasn't even until later. It was Eloqua. Oh, and Eloqua.
And
so,
Eloqua.
Yeah.
And now there's over 7,000 different,
a lot of
over 7,000 different marketing engines.
So,
and so you need marketing. You've got to have marketing to figure out all these tools. You've got to be able to utilize those pieces to open up the funnel, and you've got to change your sales strategy. If your old sales strategy was knocking on doors, it's not going to work today.
I completely agree with that, Jim. So I want to come back and unpack a whole bunch of things that you said earlier, because again, you know so much. And again, the focus really is around how you use revenue marketing principles as a change agent, and really kind of a turnaround artist. And so the first question really is, you know, it sounds as though, Jim, once you did it in one or two companies, you kind of had a formula, right, that you would bring into the next organization. So tell us a little bit about the formula.
Sure. So on the formula, like I said, we do the triage first, figure out what's there. Then if we have a marketing group, one of the things that I do is sit down with them, and we'll go through what's being done. And the first thing that's the most important is find out what is working, right? Start with what's working, because if you come in and you just criticize and say, hey, I need this and this and this, that turns people off.
Right, it does.
Catch them doing something right, bring that to the attention, set that aside, then start to work on what are the things that are missing, right? And part of that is working together. You have to start with the end in mind. What is it that you want out of marketing? You can't just come to marketing and say, well, I don't have enough leads. If you're doing that, then you're broken. Mm-hmm. You're broken already. Mm-hmm. What you have to do is start with, this is what the end game should look like. This is how I envision us. And I'll give you a real life story. Where I'm at right now at Zycus, we just hired a brand new CMO. And
does he know what he's in for, Jim?
Yeah, actually, he's a great guy, and we get along really, really super. And so the first thing I did is I welcomed him to the company, and I sent him a couple of links about things that I believe. Like I think I sent him the How Sales and Marketing Can Work Together link from one of the revenue marketing sessions that we did, Rise of the Revenue Marketer. And I sent him that, and I sent him your book, and I said, listen, I'm going to embrace everything that you're doing, and I said, I'm going to be more helpful because I know about marketing. I'm going to be able to tell you what I'm looking for. And so then we sat down and did a series of meetings. And one of the first things that came out of it was I explained our company was really a product-driven company. We were always marketing product. And I said, we need to change this to what I call the P3 marketing, where problem out marketing. And so I said, I wrote up a 5-page paper about problem out marketing, what product marketing is, what sales marketing, what sales experts do, and why that won't work, and why we need this a market leader approach. I wrote that up, I sent it to him. Immediately came back to me the next day, and he was so excited. And so then we started talking about, what does the end state look like together? What can we drive this to? And we strategized on that together and started coming up with the problem out. And now there's a new corporate deck already that we're training everybody on right now to have the unified message. And the whole thing starts out with the problem. And he built this, I'm telling you, he built an amazing deck. The graphics alone, I could have never done. But he encapsulated what I was talking about, what I needed, and he put that into a format that is, we've been using it. I've been using it now for 2 weeks. And I've gotten incredible results with it. The customers love it. We're talking about the problem that the customers are having, because of the pandemic, and it's changed everything. So that's the place to start. You have to work together, and you have to we're in this. I feel like with our CMO, I'm shoulder to shoulder with our CMO.
That's awesome. So Jim, one of the things, back in the day, I think we approached revenue marketing more like a factory. Marketing would kind of create some leads, and then it would go down the conveyor belt over to sales, and then it would just disappear into like whatever. And one of the things that I've always seen you do is really have sales and marketing work together like a single revenue team, right? Versus you go do that and I'm going to go do this. So when you come into these new organizations, two questions. Number one, how does marketing respond to your revenue marketing principles? And number two, how does sales respond to your revenue marketing principles?
Yeah, that's a great question right there. So typically, anytime that a sales exec comes to marketing and embraces the marketing team, it's almost like they don't know what to do with that. They expect.
You'd be Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. You'd be the greatest gift to marketers ever because you get it. Absolutely.
Right. And so the minute that they realize that you're on their side and that you're trying to help and that you're not here to criticize and say, oh, hey, I need more leads and I don't know what kind of leads or what they should be or how they should be, right? They've heard that story 1,000 times from sales guys that just say, I need more of X, and they don't know what X is, right? So marketing is easy to get them to embrace the piece. And when you show that understanding and they understand you're going to talk their lingo, you're going to talk things like conversion rates and, like real metrics that they can measure and that are meaningful, then they jump right on board. With the sales team, what I do with the sales team is I've done this enough times. I have full decks that I'll go back and use from other companies that I've done. And I will sit there and show the sales guys, here, let me share with you what the end state is. And I'll say, we don't have this right now, but this is what we're going to build to get there. And it will take time, it will take patience, and it will take effort from the sales team. Like, I make sure that the sales guy knows this isn't going to be marketing comes down with a 3x5 card with a name, address, and a check stapled to it and hands you the lead, right? And if there's no check, it doesn't count as a lead. I talk about what their role is going to be in this conversion process, the messaging that they're going to have to deliver, how they're going to have, and sales guys, this makes them very uncomfortable. We're going through this right now with the deck. Because sales guys are like, wait a minute, you're grading me on this deck, and I'm a freelance guy. I don't want to be graded on the deck. And it's like, we're grading on the deck because we have to give a consistent message across the board so that we can adjust the message to make it fit the market and know that when we say these things, we get these results. And we report back to marketing. We're actually recording all of our interactions, and including mine. I've done a couple message decks, and my customer call is recorded, and it goes up to marketing for grading, and they look at what's working, what's not. We look at the customer.
I love that, because how can marketing have a conversation with anybody if they don't know what works and what doesn't, and that everyone is on the same page? So this is really, really super interesting, because it's so funny, Jim, that we're sitting here in 2021, and that sales and marketing connection is still broken in so many companies. And I feel like a record that's playing the same song over and over and over again. But I do know that when you come into organizations, you have a way of getting sales and marketing on the same page and working together as a revenue team. How much does that contribute to your success in growing revenue?
I couldn't do what I do without it. I mean, let's put it this way. If you told me I had to try to do my job without the marketing assets. I wouldn't even take the job. I mean, you know, you just know you're going to fail. And this is why the turnover, for example, on a lot of sales folks, you know, sales execs, is 18 months or less. And the reason is if you don't figure out that marketing piece right away and change it, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. Okay, so we have a turnaround guru here who has applied revenue marketing principles in a lot of different ways in the organizations that you have worked in. Tell us some numbers, tell us some success. You started going down that path and telling us a little bit around some of the numbers, but what kind of numbers can you share with us how have revenue marketing principles helped drive numbers in deals that you've done?
So I'll give you an example. The company after I was at M5 was another Edison Ventures organization, and I walked in there, and they had just a slight decline on the sales side, and obviously that's why they brought in a new sales leader, and I took over sales and marketing in there. We went from 13 million to 48 million in 2 years. And this is the part that I want to explain to people of how powerful this is. At M5, when we went from 23 million to 50 million, okay, we started out with 28 sales reps when I walked in. We cut that down to 10. Okay,
Wow.
we applied the rest of that money to marketing, and that's how the growth happened. At Billtrust, we went from 13 to 48 million in 2 years, and we had the same original sales team. Okay, so it wasn't the team that got changed out. It wasn't better super reps or a bunch of super reps. It was the change in the inflection of those numbers was the direct result of the marketing inputs that we had and how that changed the way that our lead flow went.
That's amazing. Those are just absolutely, I mean, it's such a great example of how when you've got sales and marketing working together, and again, it all, Jim, it always comes down to leadership 100% of the time. And if you have those leaders who are not informed around what is possible, then these kinds of things don't happen. So we're nearing the end, so I have a question for you. And we started going down this path a little bit earlier, but what advice do you have for executives that still have their head in the sand around the value of marketing in terms of growth and revenue? No cuss words, please.
Yeah, I will say this. I think as an executive, right, you have to move faster. That's the first thing, and you have to embrace this. This is even if it's uncomfortable, we have to embrace this. I did a lot of special forces training with Tanto and Boone, the two guys that survived 13 hours in Benghazi. Wow. And it was hard training. And then one of the things they said is embrace the suck. And that's the way this is you have to just embrace that this is going to be hard, right? And you have to move fast. I always say, perfect is the enemy of good. Mm-hmm. Start the minute you got 70% of a program put together, go. You're never going to get to 100%. You're never going to know enough to be able to execute at 100%. You're going to learn things from the 70. And I always say 370% is better than 100% any day of the week. Mm-hmm. And you've heard me say this 100 times, fail fast, fall forward. Yeah. Adapt and adjust. This is a new world, it's adapt and adjust and then repeat. Marketing is a journey. Okay. It's never, ever, ever done. That's the thing. It's a constant learning, changing, evolving, and integrating between the sales and the marketing team. The messaging is going to change. The messaging that we have this year at Zycus is vastly different than what we had 2 years ago, because the pandemic has changed everything. If we didn't adapt, if you keep doing what you're doing, you keep getting what you got. And that's where people have to learn. You have to embrace this new paradigm. It is not an option anymore. It's a mandatory thing if you want to survive. So
it's so true, but Jim, I see executives every day, even some marketing executives who still don't get it. And to me, they're gonna eventually not have a job anymore, because this world has changed so dramatically. COVID has really radically shifted many things. It has accelerated many things in the needs in many areas. And so it really is incumbent upon leadership to know that you can take helicopters and put people behind the enemy lines. I mean, you just have to be able to do that. So anyway, Jim, it was so great to see you again. It was so great to hear your story. You're one of those people, when I hear your story, it's like, well, duh, of course that's the way you do it. And yet I will tell you that, since 2006, and you and I have known each other for a long time, you are still a pioneer and a leader and a visionary in how to apply revenue marketing. So thank you so much for sharing.
Always a pleasure, Debbie, and it's just so great to see you and great to be on your show. And let me know if there's ever anything I can do for you. You've changed my life in a myriad of ways, from that one fateful meeting in 2006. So I appreciate all that you've done for me and my career.
Of course, Jim, and thank you. Everybody, we have 2 shows a week, so look for them on the Pedowitz Group website. And as I sign off, remember, it is a great day to be a revenue marketer. We'll see everybody next time. Bye, Jim. Bye, everybody. Bye.